Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 350 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you for joining us tonight on a very special show that is related to the Kentucky Derby, because everyone here on the HHH Racing Podcast has a big dilemma, and it's a very good problem that we have to solve, and we need your help at home. So hopefully you can do that for us tonight. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. After you do that, hit the notification bell so that you know when new content will arise, and that notification bell is in the upper right-hand corner of the YouTube channel. And below the YouTube player, please smash, pound, hit that thumbs up button, that like button. That will send people and the YouTube algorithm to our channel, because we want as many people watching, of course, as possible. You can follow me on X right there at H Kravitz, and scrolling at the bottom of the screen, H Kravitz Horse at gmail.com. You can listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have Derby shows going on literally every night now until the Kentucky Derby. We do not have a show Friday night. We've got the draw Saturday night. We got shows Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all next week, leading up to the Kentucky Derby. Previews, features, handicapping, you name it. Please check out our YouTube channel and our website to find out information, hhhracingpodcast.com. Subscribe to our Power Picks tip sheet. Again, it's only $4 next weekend for Oaks and Derby information. We are not upcharging at all. It comes out on Saturdays, but we have a special Oaks edition coming out also a week from this Friday. Look below the video player. Go to patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast to find out how to sign up for our wonderful Power Picks tip sheet. ROI off the charts. And of course, there's our website again, hhhracingpodcast.com. And we are on Instagram as well, instagram.com/HHH Racing Podcast. All right. We are here tonight for one reason. We have to answer a question. We have a very large, healthy Kentucky Derby future bet, as most of you know by now, on Sierra Leone. Wasn't that a beautiful picture of him there in the intro before we came on? Sierra's my boy. He's our boy. This is a very special situation. And we have a dilemma because there are 10 of us involved in this bet, which I'll show the ticket. If you're not familiar with our show or the bet, we will show it to you. It's a real deal. This is not fabricated or made up. This is a real deal here. And we have to decide, should we hedge our bet or should we not? And if we are going to hedge our bet, how do we do it? And if you're not really a gambler per se, and you're not familiar with the word hedge, that means, should we make an additional bet to guarantee, and I put that in quotes because there's no guarantee about anything, to guarantee making some money on the bet? Do we, if we're going to hedge, do we hedge our bet just to make, just to get our own money back in our bet, which was very little, or do we try to hedge to get somewhere close to the money that we're actually alive to Sierra Leone? That's really the main question. And I have three people in the background right now in the green room. They're going to help me with that. Plus, we might have a special guest or two coming on later in the show. We'll find out. We have a few people traveling around the country, and we hope that we will get some people, some guests as well. But if not, that is quite all right. Oh, we got a fourth person, and I cannot believe this person is the background because he wasn't sure he was coming. I'm very excited. All right, let me bring them on in no particular order. Good friend, contest guru, and a conspirator in a good way of this future bet. Let's bring him on. Matt Miller. Matt, you like that background, sir? How you doing tonight?
Absolutely love it. You almost caught me wearing the same hoodie as yesterday. I did manage to find a different one. So, yeah, I'm psyched to be here. This is just amazing.
Thanks for joining us again. Next, we have my wonderful co-host of the HHH Racing Podcast, Picks and Ponies. Well, a lot of shows we have from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, an expert handicapper. I'm sure he has some strong opinions on whether we should hedge or not. He's also a columnist, or I don't know, journalist for the Saratoga Special. Honorable mention, by the way, Eclipse Award winner, I believe, and future Eclipse Award winner, we all know. Let's bring him on, Mr. Paul Halloran. Paul, how you doing tonight?
Good evening.
Good evening. Wow, very, very interesting. All right. Not sure what that means.
Hey, Matt, I don't know. I'm just staying in the same clothes for the next 11 days because I don't have time to change.
Yeah, that's all I can think about, honestly.
Let's bring on also another host. This is the host of Bettin' and Boozin', who not only is an excellent handicapper, but enjoys a few sports bets or two. So maybe he's going to mingle in some hedges he's made in the past or sort of bring that angle to us. Mr. Kyle Roscoe. Kyle, how you doing tonight?
Good as always, man. I mean, look, when you're alive to this amount of money, from starting in November, look, this is a conversation that you love to have. So I'm excited for it.
Sure is. And we're bringing one more person who is part of our Sierra Leone group. There's 10 of us. And I will tell, I don't think anyone's going to mind on the show. I don't know if we've really made it fully public, but as long as anyone on the show here does not mind, I'm going to tell everyone what we're all live to, just because I think we're way beyond trying to hide stuff at this point. So we will be doing that as well. But this gentleman, a big fan of the show. He's been on the show before from Buffalo, New York. You've seen him in the chat, part of our Sierra Leone family, Jim Pillars. Jim, how you doing tonight?
Whoa.
Oh, whoa. We got Mickey Mouse in there. Jim, we got some issues there. Try again, Jim. Jim, you want to try again with the sound? All right, I'll tell you what, I'll take him off. I'll take Jim off screen. He does not normally sound like that. I know he's had a few, he had a little bit of a health scare, and we're glad he's okay, but I don't think his voice changed to that extent. So anyway, guys, Jim, you want to thumbs up? You want to try one more time, Jim? All right, let's try Jim one more time. Jim, you're muted right now, Jim. Nope, still muted, Jim. All right. We'll see if we can get his sound going. So, guys, we've got a real dilemma here to deal with. Sierra Leone. I think the first we need to do is tell the story, right? Let's start from the beginning. Matt's already smiling. I don't know. He's like, Howard's got something up his sleeve. All right. So, Jim, just give me a thumbs up in the background when you think you're ready. Again, we'll put you on when you think you're ready. So, as most people know, last year we had a nice future bet, not nearly the amount or the odds, on a horse called Tapit Trice. Kyle was not part of that, but Paul was. Matt was. Matt, that was pretty exciting. I think, don't quote me, it was around 50-1. I think we had. We were live
65.
to a total of, I'm sorry, Paul?
65.
There you go, 65-1. And we were live to, as a group, I don't know, was it 35,000 or something? Whatever number was. It was a nice run. Matt and Paul, that was fun last year, right? With Tapit Trice?
Thrilling.
Yeah, till the race went off, it was excellent.
Exactly.
Right, but we always had a few concerns with him, right? He didn't really get out of the gate very well. He was a little bit goofy. He was immature. But certainly, I believe in January, if I recall, last year. And he ended up being the second choice guys in the Derby. We were ecstatic. We were thrilled, right? So I decided this year, let me take a swing again. And we were all together at Santa Anita for the Breeders' Cup, right, guys? In Breeders' Cup 23. And when I came over the Breeders' Cup, I decided, you know what? I'm going to try to find this year's future bet. And I'm not like a long-time future bet guy. In fact, there were times, guys, I was sort of against the future bet in general. I didn't think it was the best idea, etc. But I'm like, we had so much fun with Tapit Trice. Let's try it again. I did some research. Okay, Jim is not quite ready yet. I did some research. I watched some replays. I looked at a bunch of maiden races, guys. And there's a horse that caught my fancy, that interested me. And this horse ran on Breeders' Cup weekend. And we were so focused on, of course, Santa Anita, that I didn't even know about this horse when it happened. But there's a horse that broke his maiden at Aqueduct on Breeders' Cup Saturday. And the name of that horse was Sierra Leone. And I did a little research. I watched the replay. I'm like, this horse seems interesting. And Paul and Kyle, Matt and I talked about when we had a show. We talked about the fact that, sometimes you don't want to take horses that break their maiden going 5.5 furlongs and win by 10 because they're very precocious. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the Derby, right? You want to get horses that are more long-winded. Well, I announced to the world, we made a bet. I had used some resources, and on November 25th, a bet was made. November 25th. And you know what, guys? I looked at the calendar. That's 5 months ago, almost to the day. How crazy, right? Almost 5 months ago to the day, we made a bet. And on November 29th, I made a video. And Matt Miller was part of that video. And we announced to the world what we're going to do for our future bet. And that video is available on our channel. It's episode 314, everyone. 314. And if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, and people on the screen, I want to show a few clips of the video when I announced Sierra Leone is our horse that we're going to use. So let's take a look at it. We're going to show 3 very short clips, and then we'll get into the question of should we hedge or should we not. So we're going to bring it on right now, and I'm going to make sure there's sound and not screw that up. Let's watch the first minute when we told the world who we're betting for our future bet in this year's Kentucky Derby. Sierra Leone is our Kentucky Derby pick for 2024. You see the PPs on the screen. He has had 1 start. He won. This is a horse that is trained by Chad Brown. And you can see he's owned by many people, including Michael Tabor. And what you don't see on the screen is also Peter Brandt has partial ownership of this horse, of course, is a big-time owner for Chad Brown with a lot of turf horses. Let's take a look at this horse a little bit. Sierra Leone, this is not a typo, folks. At the Fasig-Tipton sale in August 22 in Saratoga, cost $2.3 million at the sale. This is a horse by Gunrunner who has a stud fee. You can see a $50,000, and they paid $2.3 million for this out of a Malibu Moon mare called Heavenly Love. Okay, so that's how it started off. You look at the PPs here, guys. I'm just gonna bring up the PPs here. I mean, he broke his maiden with a 71 buyer. Obviously, Chad Brown, expensive purchase price. Paulie was the sales topper there at Fasig Saratoga, but as we know, Fasig-Tipton, as you know, Paul, and you're a historian of the game, usually Derby winners are not very expensive. In fact, most of the horses that are really expensive, the Green Monkey, don't actually pan out, Paul.
Well, I would say yes and no. I think there's some statistical probability that goes into this, Mr. Math teacher. Sure, there have been plenty that have been modest purchases, but taking the Derby out of it, if you just look at stakes races on a day-to-day basis, more horses with 2 commas win than horses with 1 comma.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Matt, Gunrunner has not sired a Kentucky Derby winner, and that was a minor concern for me when I looked at it. However, Gunrunner was very good, obviously, and was just voted to the Hall of Fame, by the way, coincidentally. Karma?
Well, and I'll be gentle in how I say it. He's only been going at it for a couple of years.
Yes. Very true. I've got another clip for about a little over a minute, and this was the introduction of our bet. So I like Sierra Leone. What did we decide to do? Well, it's going to come up on the screen here in just a second. I'll show everyone what we did, what I decided to do in terms of a wager. And here is that clip. Talk about this bet in particular. Good idea? Bad idea? Something indifferent? I don't know. And I can't think of too many other people to bring on that could give a fair opinion of this bet. The 2021 BCBC champ who won over $500,000 by winning that contest. Let's bring him on right now from the Chicago area. Matt Miller. Matt, oh my God, you can't believe it, Matt. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, you don't see too many tickets at the bottom that say for $151,000. So it's pretty stunning. It was funny when you and I were talking about making that bet and how much to play it for. You probably remember me. For everyone at home, you should understand that these bookmakers don't take unlimited action on these bets, especially if they're not in a pari-mutuel pool. So there's a risk that they're only going to take $10 or $100 or whatever. Howard looks at me and says, "How much do you think we should do this for?" Howard, do you remember what I told you? I said the most.
I'd say that worked out. By the way, ignore what Matt put in the chat. That is not doctored. Matt, your thought when you told me the most and you heard that we ended up putting the dollar amount that we did. I'm going to show the ticket here in just a second.
Well, look, I was thinking a little differently than you were at the time. I know how much of the bet you wanted to keep. You think I'm crazy enough that I probably just wanted the remainder for myself. But at the time, I mean, it's such an unlikely thing that you're not giving away $7,500 per person. You're giving away $50 per person. That's all it really cost. And so I knew we'd be splitting this thing up in a big way and that, we'd all be scoring if it happened. So, and to answer Tom's question, I think the hoodie from that video was yesterday's hoodie.
Okay, no problem. Jim, can you hear us? You're muted. You want to turn your sound on? See how it is now.
How's the sound now? Is it better?
Yeah. Hey, Jim Pillars, how
Hey.
you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, guys. It's terrific to see everybody again.
Great to see everyone, Jim. Glad you're feeling well. Can you measure your excitement at this point, a week and a half away from a chance for a nice score, and really just to have a Cinderella story come to realization?
Howard, you're killing my sleep habits at night because I'm up tossing and turning, going through every scenario in my mind. Do I hedge? Do I not? How do I do that? How does everybody else feel? It's crazy. I've got every possible scenario going through my mind. It's wonderful, by the way. Enjoying the ride.
Well, we're so glad that, Jim, you're part of the ride. Now, I have one more clip to show everyone because it's not risky in the sense that it wasn't a lot of money, but people can argue, wow, that's sort of a lot of money to put on a horse that just broke his maiden with a 71. And look, I mean, even I was questioning how much money we should put on, etc. And we have one more clip. And Matt Miller, I wanted to ask Matt, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think, I don't know, this is sort of, it's not really risky, but I mean, are we really getting value on this horse, etc.? Let's see sorry about that.
This is the doctored video.
This is not doctored, anyone. This is absolutely not a doctored video, everyone. Let's see what Matt has to say about that with our final clip from episode 314. Horse, think it's a stupid idea, think it's a great idea. When you get value 4 times bigger the price, and you don't have to make me feel good during this little taped episode we have here, doesn't that automatically mean it was a good bet?
No.
Huh?
Matt, any response at this point now?
I gotta stand by that answer if I'm being honest, but I'm still glad to be here. These aren't great bets in general. These are a lot of
Can you expound a little bit on why you said no then, and why? I mean, obviously it's a yes now, but I mean at the time it was a pretty obvious no, right?
Just think about how many 2-year-olds are born, how many try to get to the Derby, how many even make it to the racetrack, how many get into a stakes race. Just the odds of even getting into the gate are a bit preposterous. I don't think these bets really pay you for the risk you're taking. They are tremendous fun, and if you can do them responsibly, look at the great time we're all having for not a huge stake. So I'm all for it. I'm not delusional into thinking I'm really getting value. Value is so difficult to ascertain in these cases anyway. Even if you knew back then that Sierra Leone would be Sierra Leone, there's no guarantee that horse makes it through training and gets to this point this way. And so, like I said, I stand by. whether you're getting 40 to 1 or 150 to 1, it's really hard to tell what fair odds are, and these probably aren't great bets in general, except for this one.
No doubt. And Matt's one of my best friends, and I love him, and he knows that I could give him a little crap on the show, and he can handle it. So, Kyle Roscoe, let's bring you in here. When you saw this, and I emailed it, or I think I actually texted it to everyone, there it is. There it is, everyone. If you're not familiar, it is a $1,000 win bet on Sierra Leone in the Kentucky Derby. You can see the time at the bottom was made November 25th, plus 15,000. Kyle, you're a sports bettor. You don't see that too often. And what you don't also see too often is the payout at the bottom, that if he comes through, $151,000, the 10 of us are splitting. Kyle, when you saw this, the first thing came to mind was,
we're gonna win the Kentucky Derby. I mean,
wow.
And then obviously it starts setting in. I mean, Matt's completely right in this scenario, right? Is just there's thousands of 2-year-olds born every year, and every single person that has a 2-year-old is thinking Kentucky Derby. I mean, that's just basically what it is, right? You breed in hopes of winning a race like the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, turf, dirt, whatever, sires, mares, everything like that. But everyone breeds horses to try and win the big one, which is the Kentucky Derby. So in general, like Matt said, these bets, it's mainly to have fun, right? Anyone that's betting to try these future bets to try and make money, it's just a losing bet realistically in the long run. But like I said, you guys did this last year. This is 2 in a row now, of basically having this ride. That's actually a really good question. I actually want to know the answer to that question.
They have not.
They have
TC,
not?
I haven't shown a lot of chats yet, but our chat is on fire. I'm just doing a lot of graphics right now to start the show. Please continue to be active in the chat. Sorry to interrupt you, Kyle, but
no, you're good.
TC, we have not been offered anything yet. And Paul and Jim, I would expect us probably not to be offered anything at all. But Kyle, I'll let you go ahead and finish your thoughts.
No, you're good. And I don't think they will either. Especially if they haven't done it by now, I don't think there's any way. And no, and Matt put in the chat already. No, absolutely not for 35K. It's well worth, especially considering we're going to have 2 years in a row, you're probably going to have the second choice in the Derby, right? Fierceness, 110 buyer, probably going to be bet to favoritism, but that's 2 years in a row now in January and November, months out, that Howard, you've come up with the second choice in the Derby, which is it's just the odds of doing that are nuts. Like, let's just be completely frank with it. But now, guys, I mean, it's just one of the best. It's probably one of the best bets, at least documented bets on YouTube in history. It just is. I mean, you're betting this horse at 150 to 1. I mean, you're getting math man? What's that? What's he going to be in the Derby? 7 to 2.
Yeah.
What's 150 to 1 divided by 7? Like, how many?
Well, if it was divided by 3, it'd be 50 times more if it was 3 to 1, right?
So, I mean, anytime you get 50x on your potential return, that sounds like a pretty damn good bet to me. So I think the one thing that doesn't need to be overlooked in this is no matter what happens with the end of it, I think it's a fantastic bet and probably one of the best in YouTube history for sure.
Thanks, Kyle. That does mean a lot. I appreciate it. Now, Jim and Paul,
Yeah.
we're here to answer the question we haven't answered yet. Should we hedge? And I'm going to start with you guys first, and then we'll go up to Matt and Kyle. First of all, everyone on this screen, actually Kyle, Jim, and Paul, along with all of our other co-hosts. So Charlie, Noah, Patrick, Pete, they all are live to $7,500. They put in $50. They're live to $7,500. If people are wondering how it worked, Matt and I talked. We were able to get 1,000, and we wanted to spread the love, right? And I wanted more, and selfishly, I wanted more because I came up with the idea. I think people would understand that. And but I wanted to offer it to everyone, Matt. It just felt wrong, Matt, to just take it for you and myself, considering how much of a family this podcast has grown to, and with the Tappa Trice. And Jim, you were part of Tappa Trice last year.
Yeah.
And there's one other person who I'm not going to mention his name right now, but he's also part of the group, and he's going to have a little bit more. But everyone in the podcast, co-hosts and hosts except me, are alive for $7,500. Another gentleman is alive for $200 of the 1,000. which is around 31,000. And Matt, you decide to, the way it worked out, you have 100, so you're live to, about 15,000. And yours truly, I decided to take the most. And at the time, guys, I gotta be honest, I was like, this is a little crazy. I like, you know what? Well, that leaves me at 350, so let's do it. So I have the largest piece of it. I'm alive to 52,500 personally on Sierra Leone. Yeah, it's sort of crazy to say, Jim and Paul. So here's the question. Paul, let's start with you. Should we hedge? Now, I sent out an email to everyone, that's in our email family. It's over 400 people. Got a lot of great responses. Paul, let's just start off with this. We're going to talk about not only if we hedge, but we're going to talk about hedging possibilities. So before we show some ideas on hedging or what we should do if we're going to hedge, would you hedge at all, Paul, if it were you?
Well, I think you have to consider it. However, let me say this. I think in this particular race, this particular year, it's the circumstances are far from optimal as far as a hedge goes. I think we all agree that, if we get, look at the argument for hedging is Rich Strike won this race. Okay. Stupid things happen in this race. Okay. Giacomo, no, these other ones aren't nearly as bad as Rich Strike, but Giacomo won this race. Mind That Bird had a miracle trip to win this race, but Mind That Bird, in fairness, came back. My point is, stupid things happen in this race. So there's the argument. However, I don't think you can live your life as a gambler counting on stupid things. I think you have to look at the race in front of you. And I think, on paper, if we're going to get beat, it's by the favorite. So now you have to figure, how much you're willing to risk versus your original stake in order to get something back. So for those of us with a lousy $50, guess what? I can lose $50 before I'm done talking if I could get to my iPad and bet Charlestown or something. So, it seems, I get it. With this kind of money, you look at it, the idea is to cash. The person who put in the chat, if they offered you 35, right? So, well, that's 35 to 1, right? So you say, well, any day you can get a 35 to 1 shot. I think you got to consider how much you bet and how much the return is going to change your life, if at all. And to Matt's point, and then I'll stop, the reason why I agree with Matt on these bets, and I usually play one a year. I liked Chapa Trice a little bit last year, so when you brought him up, I was all in. It's about being right, isn't it? Let's be honest, okay? My friend Bob and I, you guys have all met Bob several times. We were lucky enough to be part of a Breeders' Cup Day Pick 6. There were 10 tickets worldwide, all right? Trust me when I tell you, that money's long gone, but the fact that I can still say we handicapped a ticket that there were only 10 tickets worldwide, that's priceless as the commercial. And it's kind of the same thing with these bets, right? You get to be right forever. Howard, you're 52 grand, the way that you're cavorting around the world, going to Ascot and Melbourne, and you'll probably be at Hong Kong. You'll probably be at Hong Kong next weekend for the Sha Tin Derby. Yours will go quickly. But my point is, the money. You
said it was we spent on vacations and not on pick fives. I do appreciate that.
Correct. That's what goes without saying, Howard. We'll talk about tomorrow later. But anyway, so my point is that the money, even when it's a lot of money, the money comes and goes. But the fun, and again, Matt's right. My goal with these bets is always to get the horse in the starting gate. Yes. I consider that a win. Now, I know you lose money. How can you consider it a win? But as Matt pointed out, it is so difficult. I spent 3 mornings at Pletcher's Barn watching the whole Forte thing unfold last year. So picture, in Rapoli, for all his blather, he wants to win that race bad, right? And watching that, he's got the favorite, and he can't get in the gate. a vet. So you want to get in the gate. So I guess the answer to my question is, would I hedge? Should we hedge? I think is a intelligent debate. Would I? No.
Jim, I know you bet a little bit on sports, and I guess
Yeah.
not only the question is should we hedge, but should we hedge to get our bet back, which in your case is only $50, right?
Right.
Or should we try to hedge to get a much bigger, substantial winning? Now, I don't think there's a way we're going to be able to get $150,000 back on a
Yeah.
hedge, but I'm not sure that's really the idea of a hedge necessarily. Maybe Mattress Mac would have a suggestion on what to do. But Jim, should we hedge, and just a general idea, if we should, how would you go about doing it? And then we'll show some suggestions from the fans.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this a little bit. I have hedged in the past sometimes. It all depends on circumstance. If I'm alive to a big score, it's almost always going to be because of some multi-race sequence in the last leg. And I usually bet ABC tickets. And if I'm alive to like a single A because some crazy seahorse I put in one and paid $80, I've only got one horse alive in the last race, but I really do like my B horses, I'll hedge because I want to cover with those B horses. But if I've hit like 3 A's and a B and I've got an A and my 3 B's alive and I don't really think much of the rest of the field, I'll let it ride. This is a unique case because even though we've got this big score, I think we only have the second best horse right now and pick the second most likely winner. And I really think there's only really one chance for us to lose legitimately with Fierceton. I mean, even though it's tough to hedge in a derby like this, I don't know if I've hedged much beyond fierceness. I texted a little bit with Matt about this, going through ideas. And one of the things that the Kentucky Derby kind of offers that other races don't, if this bet was next week Thursday at Churchill in race 5, this Fierceness Sierra Leone exacta might pay 4-1, but because it's the Derby, you might get 12 or 14-1. So you do have you do have an opportunity to hedge at a greater value than you would at any other time. That's something that kind of pushed me to maybe put a little bit of a bet in there. How would we hedge? I would probably put 50-60% of my hedge with Fierceness on top, and then I would pick 3 or 4 other horses, maybe 10% of my hedge amount. And when I do hedge, I usually set a limit for myself. I usually go no more than 5% of my potential payoff. So in my case, that's if I'm at a track with my friends on a Saturday and I've got a $4,000 or $5,000 payoff, I might put a couple $100 in to protect my bet. In this case, it would be $300 to $400. I might put $250 that through Fierceness and maybe another 30-40 with, Catching Freedom, Honor Marie, or some others on top. But
guys, I want to show everyone. I have 2 things I think will be interesting to see. And I got to admit, when I found this and I saw this, I didn't start tearing up, but I was very prideful. And look, we all know if he doesn't win, no, we're not getting any money. But to me, it's much bigger than that because it's really damn hard to do. And this show is not about me patting myself on the back or having you guys kiss my butt. It's just a lot of fun conversation in a unique situation. But I want to show everyone something right now because I think this is pretty cool. So these were the odds on Sierra Leone. I'll put you guys on screen by date. And you see at the top, November 24th, which was, by the way, the day before we made the bet. Only Caesars had horses available in Las Vegas, to our knowledge. And you see, there it is, guys, 150-1. And then we made our bet, and it doesn't see it. You don't see it on the screen here, but it did go down to about 85-1 immediately. Matt, Caesars has to do that, right? When they take $1,000 bet, I mean, they're going to have to lower the odds. And then the Remsen occurred on December 3rd, and he finished a great second, and immediately went down to 75-1. Matt Miller, talk about what you see here, man. The rest is history. It's the second column, by the way, is Circa. The third column, Westgate. The last column is the Kentucky Derby future bet, which is much lower than I wanted, which is why I have no money on the Kentucky Derby future bet on Sierra Leone. But you see these odds, Matt. It's just sort of cool to see, right? How just gradually he keeps going down. In February was the Risen Star. And then, of course, he keeps going down. And then April was the Bluegrass. And you keep going down, Matt. And there you go, buddy. 7-2 right now at Caesars.
Well, look, it's what we talked about before. With the passage of time, the bet is de-risking. And so that's, to some extent, you're watching the odds go down because the horse is showing improvement. But to some extent, just the passage of time and the fact that the horse is still on the trail
Right.
is helping quite a bit. The biggest surprise on that board that you showed me was that Caesars took $1 more on this horse after our bet.
Yeah.
I frankly would have just guessed that they would have taken him off the board and said, we're just kind of done with this one and we'll collect money on others.
Interesting. Now, in terms of let me show a few comments in the chat, guys. Now, these are not comments in the chat. I took some of the emails, guys, and I created banners for them. Kyle knows what I'm talking about. So these are suggestions from our fans, guys, from emails, and I had to shorten them a little bit and condense them. These are suggestions from people that say that we should hedge. So let's show on the screen right now. This is from John K., who said, for maximum payoff, Sierra Leone runs fourth and fiercest off the board, but need the right 3 in the super. I just do that every Derby, and I have a budget of about 4,000. 11 horses. I'm assuming he's saying 11 horses in each spot, guys, is $990 times 4. So John K is suggesting a superfecta. Kyle, just thoughts on playing a superfecta as a hedge?
I mean, you guys all know my my feelings on the supers and tries by now, but look, I mean, we did it last year. We've done the superfecta pool in the past. As a hedge, I would be much more inclined to do something a lot less on the risk factor. Like we talked about exactas, especially. I think Jim, honestly, I think you hit it completely. I think all your points were extremely well taken. You know, how the Derby has, I mean, there's so much money in the pools that no matter what, you're still getting good value on what, even if it's 1-2 favorite exacta, you're still getting, you know, over double digits. Super would be a little more risk that I would be willing to take in a hedge. I think even tries maybe is still too much of a risk. I mean, you can do the old reverse try key, as we all know. A lot of people love it on the screen here, but I think even tries might be a little too risky. I think if I were to hedge, I would do exactas. And I'm like we've been talking about, I don't think there's really too many horses that I like above Sierra Leone. I mean, we're talking fierceness at 5-2, most likely odds, and then catching freedom. I think there's gonna be a pretty big gap this year. And obviously I'm rambling a little bit, but I think catching freedom is going to be like 7-1, 8-1. I think there's going to be a pretty big gap in between the two and everybody else. So I think exactas would be, in short, I think exactas would be the smallest that I would want to go personally.
Well, Kyle, if I can jump in for a second,
Yeah.
I was going to hedge just by boxing your superfecta contest picks from last night. I'm thinking that, you know, you're so locked in here.
Hell yeah.
You know, I can hedge for, what is that?
Hey,
4-horse box of your selections. I'm in. I'm good.
Hey man, I'm just saying, I run 4th, 5th, 6th, 13th, and 20th. You know, that could be good enough to win the pool.
Paul, I think Jim had some sushi tonight for dinner, I believe, Paul.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
Yeah, he should share it. I think if I were, and you know, obviously we all have the ability to hedge on our own. I mean, I'm going to certainly bet these races this weekend, next weekend. I might look at a pretty good Oaks Derby double into fierceness. That's one, because I think the Oaks is at the top a better race than the Derby.
I would agree.
And I like a few. I like a few horses there, and again, depending on price, you know, you have the advantage of the probable payoffs, so you know what you're getting into. I get it on the exactas, but I just think with 19, you know, with 19 other horses, or 18 if you take fierceness out, there's an awful lot of variables there.
Let's look at a few other ideas. Speaking of exactas, guys, this is from Kyle L. in his response. He would suggest $200 exacta King Sierra Leone second, using the 5 best value win contenders on top, projected to pay a minimum of $50 for each combo, about $1,000. Then I would key Sierra Leone in third. I'm assuming he means in a trifecta. That was from Kyle L. So, Matt, there's a lot of creative ideas. Tim B, I would do some we haven't talked about this yet, really, multi-race bets without Sierra Leone. I know you're not a big fan, Matt, necessarily of pick 4s, pick 5s, pick 6s, but that is something I've given consideration to. But that is the most risky, Matt, because if you do that hedge and you're wrong before the Derby, now you've lost money already. So that is pretty risky, but it's a consideration, Matt.
With all due respect to my friends on the screen, I don't like any of the ideas I've heard yet. I'm just being honest. So
No, that's why you're here.
all right. So I told you I took some notes before the show because I've got
Please.
some points I want to get across. And this is almost in no particular order. I don't think what I'm hearing from the group sounds like a hedge. It sounds like betting more. And I look at the word hedge as being tantamount to de-risking something. And I feel like everything I'm hearing is adding risk, adding the risk of picking the Oaks winner, figuring out where Sierra Leone's going to be if he's not where we think he's going to be, right? So we think he's going to be closing and winning. And if not, I don't know that he's coming in second or third. And I'm going to feel even dumber losing more money on this horse by putting him underneath when he just wasn't meant to be in the first place. So again, to me, the question of whether or not to hedge starts with two questions. Number one is, am I alive to something that's way more than it should be? You know, in a pick six where you're alive to $1 million and you didn't really think that would happen when you bet. Well, in this case, we knew exactly what we were getting into. And so, no, this is exactly where we expected to be or hope to be. So I'm not hedging for that reason. The other reason I hedge is if there's a change in circumstances or opinions. And if I'm being honest, a little bit, yeah, a little bit. I wouldn't want a different horse in this race. And yet there is one horse that has emerged that feels like a clear threat. That's not a genius observation, by the way, but I do feel that since the time we made the bet a long time ago, a clear, let's just call him next best horse has emerged. And so why would we ignore that piece of information? So for me, there's also an emotional component to this that makes this an extremely complicated issue, because I honestly think the answer for every one of us is going to be no fucking way, period. I mean, it's with the expletive, it's with everything. No fucking chance I'm hedging this. Let's ride this thing out. This is too fun. I'm going to feel miserable cashing a ticket on fierceness. Miserable. It's not going to come even close to making up. And so the amount we would have to bet and win on something else would have to be so obscene to make up for the misery we're going to feel. I think we're just kind of locked in with this one. Let's not throw good money after a little bit, right? I mean, it's not throwing good money after bad. It's good money after good, but we're into this for next to nothing. It's a terrific play. If there's anybody out there in this group that's in some sort of financial distress where they are alive to more than they expected, I'd be betting a win bet on fierceness, maybe a tiny exacta with Sierra Leone for second, you know, just in case it's a close finish or whatever. But I would not be introducing other variables, and it would frankly be for a pretty sizable chunk. And so in my case, as I thought about this, if I was alive, you know, for this whole thing, I'd probably be betting about 20% of what we expected to win. Figuring if I get 3-1 on that, I'd be awfully happy cashing maybe $100,000. But again, we're human beings. This is so cool to be a part of, and it's almost like we're cheating on each other to be betting on other horses. I think
I hear you. No, Matt, we appreciate that. That was a great speech, great comments. We all appreciate it. And I just want to mention, if you can't see Matt's sub banner, he has a book that's going to be coming out relatively soon called A Better Way of Thinking. We're all really excited for Matt. Matt, we're so excited for you and happy for you. And we'll talk more about your book as we get closer to the publication. But these kind of great comments and thoughts from one of the best contest players in the world and best money managers in the world. There's so much more and great stories in the book, and I've read it. It's outstanding, and you absolutely want to read this book, A Better Way of Thinking. It'll be coming out relatively soon. We'll get more information when it comes out. Let's very quickly, before we just briefly talk about comments of not hedging from people, one last possible hedge. This is from Gary S., who said I would hedge a little bit. Maybe some fat exactas or maybe some big doubles, not going overboard on those wagers. You made a great call. Maybe the call of a lifetime. Thanks, Gary. And Matt, that's basically what you're saying. Like, you wouldn't hedge, but if you're going to, I mean, don't go crazy on it, right? I mean, just do something small. Kyle, you would agree with what Matt said in that case?
Yeah,
If you were going to hedge at all?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, like you said, I mean, Matt brings up a really good point. Just the pride aspect of it is you're betting on a different horse. Why would you you're like, oh, yay, that horse won. Fantastic. I'll go cash my. But Matt, one of the best quotes, and you yelled at me for it. You yelled at me for it earlier this week, is how much would I need to be able to make off of like a different bet to be, or hedge bet to be fine with this. And I think we're all in agreement that I don't think that number is going to be met without wagering a lot of money, and when more than what we would be very we would be okay with. So yeah. I think from that regard, I think that's completely correct.
It would almost make this kind of gross, actually, to really whip out 25 or 30 grand and put it on the favorite. And I mean, the whole feeling of this being such a fun ride all of a sudden turns into a financial transaction. And I don't know. I think we all know what we're doing.
Yeah. We're going to be on for about 10 more minutes, everyone. Really appreciate. We have hundreds of people watching, by the way, Matt, and everyone on the screen. Literally hundreds of people on YouTube live right now, on X. Go ahead, Matt.
All right. So if there's hundreds of people watching, I'm going to answer a question in the chat. A betterwayofthinking.com is going to be where you get this book. It's not ready yet. It's not going to be on Amazon right away. You will be so sick of me by the time you see me on podcasts and different appearances. I promise you'll have websites, QR codes, but I'm hoping for a pre-Derby publication, hopefully next week. You'll hear all about it. Thanks.
There you go. Guys, I want to show something. I don't know if you've seen this, because this is a bit of breaking news. Are you ready? So there are bets now that you can make within the race. There are the odds. These are very current. To win the race, obviously, we know what those odds are. But now you can bet the no. So you can bet fierceness to not win the race. And there's Sierra Leone, obviously. Right now, minus 475 for Sierra Leone to not win the race. The one below it to me is actually very interesting to me. For fierceness or Sierra Leone not to win the race is minus 135. When you see this, and then you see the matchups, Paul, when you see this, does this catch your fancy? Does this make you interested in doing something at all? I know you're against hedging in general with this bet, but in seeing this, does this perk your interest at all?
I think it perks my interest, not in playing it, but it tells me that the smart people who are making these lines think Sierra Leone is going to win this race. That's what I'm looking at on the screen. Look at the no.
Matt, thoughts on that? You got a lot of sports, Matt, also.
It's a little inconsistent, though, because the head-to-head has fierceness as the favorite. The reason I'm not super interested, without being too much of a nerd, the spreads are too big. That minus 145 to plus 115 is obscene. But honestly, that bet, if it were tighter, let's just assume it was even money for either side. That actually might be a pretty compelling way to hedge Sierra Leone. You can really isolate your risk down to one horse, and if you think you can beat that one or not.
I saw the minus 135 with neither of them, and that hurts my interest a little bit. Yeah. Kyle and Jim, really quickly, any thoughts on what you see on the screen? No, actually, we should read it off for everyone real quick, because we have audio listeners. So
then
very
Jim,
quickly,
go for it afterwards.
The no on fierceness is minus 300. Again, we're filming this on April 24th right now. The no on Sierra Leone is minus 475. The no on fierceness or Sierra Leone win the Derby is minus 135. Jim, go ahead first, and then Kyle.
I honestly don't have much interest in this bet. I mean, I think there's better ways if you're going to bet the race to do it. I wouldn't want to bet against Sierra Leone, just like Matt said, which is with a sentimental. I mean, I don't want to be rooting either way. When I'm looking at this race, I think I'm just going to handicap the whole car as I normally would any other Kentucky Derby day. I'll list my A, B's, and C's. I'll make my bets. I'll look at the Oaks Derby, and I almost might ignore this bet. I'll bet the Derby just as I normally would. And Sierra Leone may be one of two A's I have in the race. And if I bet a multi-race or something or a pick, I'm good either way. And if Sierra Leone, that's like icing on the cake. So I've been going back. I said, you've been keeping me up at night. I've been every scenario in my mind thinking. And if you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably have a different answer. But, I really want to see the card next week and handicap the entire sequence. And is there a pick 3 I like, an Oaks Derby double I like, a double into the. There's different ways you can play this. So I'm going to sit back and look. But this particular bet, I have no interest in. I don't know about Kyle.
Kyle, real quick on what we saw on the screen a minute ago there.
I'm not necessarily, except from a betting standpoint, I just like the matchup bets. I think that's just a fun way to go about it. Whether, you're just literally just betting on if Sierra Leone will beat Fierceness in the race. That's what you're betting on. I just like the matchups from just a straight bet standpoint. But as if to betting the Kentucky Derby, there's definitely better ways to go about it, I think.
I don't want to speak for everyone on the screen and everyone in our group, but just to start wrapping up the show, I think it's pretty safe to say, everyone listening and watching live or replay, we are probably not going to hedge as a full group. I highly doubt that's going to happen. I think some of us may mess around some things on our own, whether it be vertically, horizontally, whatever, just to have some action. But I think as a group, I think it's pretty clear we are not going to be hedging on a bet. And speaking of that, guys, let's wrap up with some thoughts of some people who said hedging. Are you crazy or something like that? This is from Felice on the bottom of the screen. I would absolutely not bet against yourselves in this spot. Worst thing that can happen, Sierra loses, but your fans still respect you for the balls and brains you all had for placing this bet. I thought it was very well said, right, guys? Matt, big thumbs up to Felice on that.
Thank you.
Okay. Very simple from Steve P. Let it ride from Steve P. Steve, thanks for sending an email back on the response. I have 2 more responses I want to show, guys. There we go. Let it ride, by the way. Matt, I've heard some rumors about that was a great movie, right? I heard. Anyway,
I'm working on it. I've made contact and I'm trying. We'll see.
We're going to show 2 other a post and then an email, and then we're going to wrap up the show. Here's one from Joe R, guys, on the bottom of the screen. Don't press or hedge. It's a, quote, futures bet, quote, wagered months ago. It should have 0 bearing upon how you view the race now. Paul, you're shaking your head in agreement from Joe R.
I think that sums it up about. We've just been blathering for 54 minutes, and that sums it up probably better than we have in 54 minutes.
All right, well, guys,
I think I know who Joe R is, and it's really good to see you if that's the case.
We're going to end the show, or before we actually say goodbye, with an email, guys, that really, it touched my heart, and I'm almost getting emotional, thinking about it. I've got it on the screen. I asked this gentleman if I could actually share the whole email with him. It's not very long, but it was so well thought and so well written and so complimentary. And this email that I'm going to share with everyone is from someone pretty famous. He's one of the best racetrack announcers to ever call a race. He called races at Gulfstream, at Oaklawn, at Hollywood, many other places. This is an email directly from friend of the show, great guy, good contest player and handicapper, Mr. Vic Stauffer. And I'm going to show you the entire email, and no one on the screen has seen this. So, Vic, thank you for letting me share this email with the world. And here it is, guys. I'll show it and I'll read it off as well. This came a few days ago. Life is one long gamble. Winning is important. Hard work and expertise will ultimately prevail. It's hard to hit a long shot winner. However, real horse players know it's not about picking winners. It's about continually making the correct bet over and over again. You teach that every day on the podcast. You loved your ticket the day you bought it. Regardless of the result, you've made an awesome bet. You should understand the current value of that and rejoice in the hope you can replicate it time and again. It's statistically been proven that hedging isn't fiscally sound over the long run. You must have the courage to be totally right and get no return. I know that's scary and could potentially hurt, but that comes with the territory. It's why it's so hard. As Tom Hanks said in the movie A League of Their Own, quote, it's the hard that makes it great, unquote. Do not cheapen an epically awesome opinion and even better wager. Only the weak and untalented Hedge. You guys are neither. Let it ride. You have great, other great opinions. Of that, I don't have to hedge. Go Sierra Leone, Vic Stauffer. Wow. How about that, guys? What an email. Isn't that awesome?
Nice.
And I know we'd all agree, and Matt, you would agree probably more than anyone on this screen with what Vic had to say.
Oh, absolutely. That's super nice. That's, the time he took to think that out and say all that. It's much appreciated. And it's been fun sharing with everybody.
It's been great. Any final thoughts from anyone on the screen? Quick whip around Paul Halloran.
No, I think that was very nice. And Vic kind of just, happened upon us at the Breeders' Cup, needed a place to sit. And our friend Bob was all alone because the rest of us were scattered around the racetrack. And Vic asked if he could sit down. And, 2 days later, he's an adopted member of the family. That's why the race, this business that we're in, whatever you want to call it, avocation is the best there is. So, no, I think it's great. And I look at, I'm going to play just like Jim. I'm going to play like I would normally play. I'd love to be alive to my 2 A's in that race. But, I'm not looking to, hit a West Saratoga over Sierra Leone and, go get some Chinese food to celebrate. I'm really not interested in that. I can afford the Chinese food without that.
Jim, final thoughts. I guess
Matt really made me think. Matt really made me think. It's the emotional part of it. Investing in this horse for so long. It's not like a typical Saturday where I bet a pick 5, I handicap for a couple hours, and I have no emotional interest in which horse wins the last leg. It's the dollar amount. So I think I'm going to do the exact same thing Paul did. I will handicap the cards as I normally would. I'll make the same bets as I would every Kentucky Derby year with my group of friends. And if Sierra, Leone wins, man, do I owe you guys a big dinner when we go to Saratoga in July?
You know what? You owe us nothing, man. We enjoy the friendship. Look, below the video player, I haven't even said it the whole show. Below the video player, we'd love to hear anyone's comments on whether we should hedge or not, and if we should, your suggestions. Kyle, you have the chance to wrap it up. I guess none of us should be surprised that one of the best racetrack announcers in the history of our game was able to articulate his feelings so well, because he did it thousands and thousands of times in real time watching the races. Final thoughts, Kyle.
I will say the one thing, there's one sentence in that entire paragraph that really stands out. Obviously, fantastic email, extremely well meant, and obviously, Vic, we can't thank you enough for that. But from a handicapping and betting standpoint, there is one sentence that sticks out to me. It's not about winning. It's about making the correct bet over and over and over again. And that's the sign of a good player. And it's right there. It says, however, real horse players know it's not about picking winners. It's about continually making the correct bet ever and over again. And that is what I think people really need. It's what I talked to Matt all about. It's, these contests, right? It's about putting yourself in the position. If you put yourself in the position enough times, those horses will start to run eventually. And if there's anything that people should take away from that one email, it's that line right there, I think.
Yeah, and our good friend Matt Miller has said it on many occasions to us and on live broadcast. Try not to be so result-oriented. It's very difficult in this game to not be result-oriented. But like you said, Kyle, and all the great handicappers, you just got to continually put yourself in those positions. And if you are good enough, great things will happen. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. This has been a nice little break from handicapping and talking about this. For my wonderful good friends, co-hosts, and fans of the show, Kyle Roscoe, Matt Miller, Jim Pilares, and Paul Halloran. This has been Howard Kravitz, episode 350 of Picks and Ponies. Join us tomorrow night, Thursday, for a shorter episode live before the NFL draft. We're going to be going over the late pick 4 on opening night of Churchill, also talking about Hawthorne, and then we hope to see you this Saturday night live for the Kentucky Derby draw, the 150th. Everyone, crush your bets on any hedge that you make, or not a hedge. Probably not. Let it ride, everyone. Take care. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.